Hey guys, welcome back to Trekyards. He's Commander Cockings.
He's kind of funny.
Today we're talking about the villain of Section 31, sans his age. That's French for without his age,
Hmm.
but with his age.
Hmm.
Anyway, we're talking about Sand, and it's an interesting,
Mm-hmm.
interesting video we have lined up for you guys. So,
Yes. So we noticed this in our reviews, and I remember reading in our comments someone saying, "Oh, you're the first reviewers to notice that issue." The issue, of course, being, I think it's a plot hole. I think it's a somewhat film breaking plot hole. I think basically there's two big elements to consider this story. Is that Giorgio is however old she is. She's come from the universe. Great. And the San, who's the same age as her, has also come from the universe to take her out. Ish, give or take, right? But the writers seem to have forgotten that Giorgio was sent forward in time, then came back in time, but ahead of when San was. So there's been a giant, and we'll get to the exact numbers in a minute, multi-decade jump. And yet San is not apparently the age, the vibe he is. And there's not even a hint of a sense of dialogue, because she also, Georgia should have said, why haven't you aged? There's the fact that she didn't say that meant that I think they just forgot as writers. And so this character is meant to be about 65, 70 years older, and it kind of makes the film illogical and unworkable. Why would that be, Stuart? How do you feel about if this is how they're presenting it?
well, he's coming from the Terran Empire to the Prime Universe, but he picks an era that's not his era. Like, I don't know. I don't think you can choose which which you go through, whether they throw you forward or backwards in time when you're transferring between universes. It just seems like an odd choice to not have him be aged up, and without it, like you said, without any explanation. You can say, yeah, after I faked my death, I had to enter stasis for a while to recover something, anything. Like, there's lots of ways to get around that. Not even addressed. And to be fair, not a lot of people probably knew about that. The whole her going forward in time and then getting sent by Carl or the Guardian of Forever to a different time, which is much later than when she originally came from. Most general casual viewers might not remember that or know that. So it's like they're using that as a crutch to be like, okay, nobody's going to notice. We're not even going to.
Which is funny because in theory, this film is made for the Discovery audience who love Giorgio, who are the only ones who would remember that she was sent back in time away from her era. Like, that's the only audience this movie has in theory, like, built in. And so if these writers assumed they even forgot, then that speaks to the lack of social awareness of this new fandom to the continuity of the show they've apparently been fans of. Now, it doesn't help to us as the audience that there's nothing in the film except calling a woman Rachel Garrett, and that's the only element that places it in the era it's meant to be. Although that said, of course, on the wall in her office, as in a previous video, there is the correct phases arrangement. So there is that in fairness, but it's so unbelievably minor that we can't say that that's enough to prove. So you could easily be forgiven to think this is in the Discovery era because none of that tech is out of place. The phase shift belt thing, I mean, they could have got it from Alien, right? There's Discovery, whatever, they don't care. So none of that speaks for it not being Discovery era. So it is confusing you on purpose, almost, without its era differentiation. It's a weird one. But let's look at the stuff I've got prepared. So, of course, this is Empress Giorgio from her appearance in season 1 of Discovery. She's been, at this point, Emperor for a long time. If we assume the actress who played young Giorgio was 18, fair to say, around that, right? And then this Giorgio was in her 50s as in the actress. There you go, right? Let's say 35, 40 years. Great. Which was a lot of little leeways to when the flashback takes place, when San gets killed. So there's a bit of ambiguity there. We don't know. But this is how Michelle Yeoh played it, how she looked for Discovery Season 1. So what was that? 2016 it was filmed. So a while ago, but there she is. This is the comparison. And as I say, the actress, or the character, sorry. So the character, because they have a birth date on Memory Alpha, Giorgio, she's 55 years old in this look, right? Because yes, on the right is how she appeared in the flashback, but she can only be as old as the day she left the mirror universe, right? Because that's the day she left the mirror universe. So she has to be at least 55 years old or younger, right? But That's her age. Great. Now, if you go to the next shot, this is how these two people looked in this flashback. Now, with tech, I think if 55 years, they look how they look, maybe we can go back, maybe they'd look the same at 42, right? 15 years difference, 30. We can. I think more than that, Michelle Yeoh looked different at being in her late 20s, so I don't think you can go that far. So, let's say 15-ish years of time, we'll give them as wiggle room, right? For this flashback. So this flashback either takes place between 2042 and 2057, 57 being the Discovery Season 1 when she's pulled out of time. So that's fair to say, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
15-year window. Fair enough. Well, by that window, this is San from the flashback. He's between 42 and 55 years old, because he would be the same age as Giorgio in the competition, right? So that's the same. On the right is the clearly much older San, who we know 67 years later in real time, he's minimum, using the 15-year jump back, he's between 109, and that's generous, to 122 years old. So at the very least, he's 122 years old. Do you think he's aged much in 67 years? And how would you feel if you looked this way at being around 120 years old?
He looks good for his age. I gotta say, minus the scars, he's good. It's almost like these scenes were filmed on the same day, because they probably were.
Well, I'll say week, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And no alterations to his makeup. Not leaving some graying in the hair.
Yep.
They could have shaved his head to have a different look, and maybe grown a little bit of put a little fake beard on him, something to change the appearance. But literally, this is the exact same. It almost feels like they just moved from one set to the next and filmed it.
He's just a bit more pissed looking. And
yes,
because this is Mandela effect, right? It's in the past, so you add a bit of, he looks younger. The haircut's even the same. Like, this is all a minus effort, right? Minus effort. And there's nothing, like, you can add your own headcanon, but what is in the movie is a zero explanation. So he is 67 years older, and he is in his, at least, being generous, he's just about to hit 110. Being generous, really, he's in his 120s. I don't therefore buy that a 120-year-old can successfully fight a 62-year-old with the expectation to win. Trek does not show, and we'll get into this in a second, there is still age in Star Trek. And he is pushing the age range. Fair to say this is now you can't believe the movie with this as the logic, a big 120 and
yeah. There's some kind of argument to be made where in Discovery where they talk about the alternate universe and how eventually it drifts further away to the point where there can't be crossovers anymore. You can make an argument that one universe is moving different speeds, so it's when it comes across, but go ahead and say it.
DS9 happens in their real time.
I know.
There you go.
So yeah, people will try to say that we're wrong about this, but I don't think we are at all. And you're right. We have seen other characters age up. We've seen, Picard in later seasons. We've seen, the very first episode of TNG, we got, that's the next picture. Wow.
We might get there in a second, Stuart. We might get there.
We see McCoy, who's 137 years old. So
I've got the numbers in a second, yeah.
Yeah, and it's fair to say that San, who's from the Terran Empire, lived a much harder, rougher life, less medical care. They didn't use a dermal regenerator to fix his face. So in theory, those people would age worse and look a lot worse at older ages.
Yeah, the benefit of the doubt doesn't apply to that. I don't think they get free Medicare as part of the Terran Empire as well. But it's not just that, though. This adds another layer of the entire point of the movie is that the gods send is pulled into our universe, is stolen and taken. And this guy is chasing it, I guess, it's unclear, to use it to bomb a fourth of our galaxy, the entire quadrant they're in, which I guess is this quadrant, or the Beta quadrant, I guess. Yeah, Beta. So destroy the entire quadrant, kill everyone in it, and then take and get the Mirror Universe army to come through and conquer, and he be the new emperor. Which I guess he has a claim to. Whoever the emperor is right now, he can overthrow them because he was the original two people. I guess he has a claim, although what's the emperor doing? Who is the emperor, and why are they going to let him have a coup, given he has one ship and no guards? He's a very inferior one. Now, if he's officially there for the Terran Empire, okay, why him again? Why no guards? Why no tech? Why no whatever? Apart from the phase shifting, whatever. But the question is, that was his plan. What has he been doing for 67 years? For almost a full lifetime. Because there's not a single line of dialogue that gives you anything in between.
Just say, I faked my death. I had to go into hiding and got put in a stasis pod for longer than I anticipated. Something, anything, line of dialogue. It's easy enough to do, guys.
Or say, have Philippa say, "Oh, you look no different. No, I've taken all the drugs to stay the same. It's my 5th coup attempt. I do every 10 years. I do a new coup trying to empire." And something like, it sounds silly, but give us a sense of he keeps trying to take over the empire every few decades, because 67 years is a long time, and he's apparently done nothing. I mean, there's no reason to think he's done nothing. There's nothing here, content-wise. And, of course, why has he waited this long? He happens to go after the God's End when Giorgio happens to be there, happens to bump into her, and then, of course, the dialogue on his death, spoilers, I've always wanted to show you who I really was. You thought she was dead for 67 years. Because she left the universe, and then you saw her 67 years later, and not knowing she was here. Well, there was nothing in between, Zan. And even if you came to our universe, somehow hacked Section 31 and realized she came through and was an agent for a year, then she died on Discovery and left So for 66 years, you were not there was nothing with her character you were using or working towards, nothing. So they basically forgot that they all moved in time, and they approached it as if this flashback was last week, and none of that is true or makes sense. So I think the writers either didn't watch Discovery, deliberately didn't care, or there's a giant subplot from the series they took out about, like you say, how, and they so knew it internally that they didn't remember to including it back in, but all of it is horrendously important, and it breaks the entire film, unfortunately.
Yep, you're not at all wrong. It opens up other plot holes as well, like how if he was coming across at the Godsend, he wouldn't expect to see her.
Nope.
Then he phases through a wall, sees her, doesn't really hesitate, just starts fighting her.
Yep.
Doesn't try to be like, anyway, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's almost like it lost something in the conversion from series to movie.
So. It's confusing. But let's look at the other side, because maybe the Terran Empire has insanely good healthcare for old age pensioners.
They want to make their people suffer as long as possible, so they keep them nice and young.
So got to keep dyeing that hair
forever.
Yep, dye that hair. So here's a little example of just how, because I think if as humans, we have limitations on our physical bodies. There is not an infiniteness. Here's 2 examples. 97-year-old Captain Picard. That's how old, obviously not the actor is, that's how old the character is. And 137-year-old Bones McCoy, TNG and Picard Season 3 respectively.
Mm-hmm. And you can see the age there. As I said, even if you had made Sans hair gray, because even when you aged up the character, it receded his hairline, made it gray. He looks age appropriate, and I wish they would have done that, because it would have made a lot more sense. But then you have like a 65-year-old woman fighting a 122-year-old man, and it's like,
well, and not just that, but you'd have to hire like an 85-year-old actor, and you don't often have 85-year-old actor, because he has to like have the sag of an old person in theory if you're going for something faithful, because it has to look decades older than Michelle Yeoh, who's already like say in her 60s, so it has to look and feel older, and then he has to be convincing as a threat in a fight scene. It's kind of hard to make a 122-year-old look convincing in a fight scene. And they didn't, and they failed. Because this is an interesting, I thought, parallel, because we have 2 examples of real life and not real life. DeForest Kelley was not even close to this age, and he looked normal. He was doing the movies at the time. So this is him faking his age, and he was acting old. And 137, they really are he's being pushed to the edge because he's like a doddering, like he's old, right? He's there purely as like an honorary thing. He's not serving in any meaningful way. He's just, thanks for being here. We love you. We're not going to leave any real decisions to do, or you know.
Yeah, and fair to say, he's a doctor, so he's taking the best possible care of himself and his body.
Well, kind of. You say that, but also he's an old-timey doctor, so he wouldn't probably
Yes.
accept high-end
Yeah.
medicine. So he's kind of both. But I include
You're
him because he's pre-TOS, so therefore he's of a similar, era versus modern medicine. So so even someone pre-TOS, and we have better healthcare in the prime timeline, fair to say. So that's 137. He's not far off, is San. He's not far off at all. The opposite is Captain Picard. That's season 3, so that's 97 years old. That's after the flash forward. That's actually an old actor playing an older character, where the infirmness of the actor is what's driving the age of the character. Because in the show, the people treat him like an older character. More in season 1 and season 2, but that's still how the society's treating him. He's treated older. He's not allowed to make all the decisions. He feels more frail. So at 97, a man who's probably in very good health relative to the tech, he couldn't punch a fly. And that's 30 years different. So even both extremes, it's not believable. It does break the movie, unfortunately.
If you think about it for more than 10 seconds, yes. Which most people that watch this movie just kind of glaze over at this point anyway, so they're like, okay, let's...
And as we said, they may have seen Into Mirror Darkly, right? Where the two universes are a different timing. But it was an artificially created hole in space, and it happened to be that. Every other time I've crossed over Ion Storm wise and DS9 wise, it's always been real time. It would have been super fun if they'd said this Ion Storm is temporally differently sunk, and you'd said in our review you thought you saw a glint in Giorgio's eye of wanting to go back home. Had there been dialogue saying this normally takes us back to a year after you left, then she could go back and reconquer her empire. That would have been a really interesting narrative thread. You do go back to the bad stuff but it wasn't there, which means we cannot assume it or even imply it because it was not there. And it should have been. That would have been fun. Would have been weird. Would have been fun.
Yeah, lots of possibilities they could have done to just make things a little bit better. A couple line of dialogue added, But anyway, this is what we got. This is what we have to work with. And a lot of people had noticed that San should be older, so I'm glad we got at least are covering this.
It's a really interesting thing. I love when a film feels like they entirely forgot an entirely massive plot point and just never made it into the script or screenplay. No one noticed it. Because you could have ADR'd to fix this super easily, right? So no one caught this the entire production time of the film. That's not a good sign. And it's just interesting that those sorts of things got through, right? Like in Discovery Season 2, when Giorgio says the orange banisters, but they're red. It's like, just ADR it differently, right? As someone left in the mistake or didn't catch it, despite all the people, through all the production. Like, it's interesting when those things happen. Or Red Angel, where they just miscount the number of jumps by the end. It's like, oh, it's just messed up, right? So I like it, it's interesting. But yes, he's not 122 in the film. That's silly.
Comment down below what you thought about this, what you think about this, and anything you want to add to it, because we do read the comments. We want you guys to have conversations with each other down there. And just hit the like button for all the hard work that Sam put into this particular episode. We appreciate you, Sam. And make sure that you click the notification bell icon so you don't miss any content like this, or our lives, or just hanging out with us in general, because we love you guys. We want you to be notified when we're going live and doing things. So.
And if you want to support us doing this sort of content that no one else is going to do, and you might not have even caught, and that's pretty amazing, then support us via Patreon if you can. It is monthly, or join the channel also monthly. I mean, 5 a month by 10 people does mount up very, very quickly. So please, if you do, thanks. And if you can as well, then super chat our lives, any amount, put your voice part of the conversation, say a thing and have it be heard. If you can, please do. Or super thanks on any video like this, if you'd like to, and that could be any amount. Or buy a shirt, the link's down below. Again, any little help just makes a big difference.
That's right. So until next time, where we'll be a little bit older, but not much. He's Commander Cockings.
He's got a Foley.
Bye,
Bye, guys.